The Department of the Interior is the 8th Cabinet of the United States. It manages America's vast natural and cultural resources, employing expert scientists and resource management professionals. The department is responsible for the management and conservation of most federal land and natural resources, and the administration of programs relating to Native Americans, Alaska Natives, Native Hawaiians, territorial affairs, and insular areas of the U.S. The Department of the Interior has a role different from that of the interior ministries of other nations, which are usually responsible for functions primarily performed by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and secondarily by the Department of Justice. The department is sometimes called the Department of Everything Else because of its broad range of responsibilities. The Department of the Interior is headquartered in Washington, D.C. The idea of a Department of the Interior for domestic concern was first considered by Congress in 1789, but those duties were placed in the Department of State. The idea of a separated domestic department continued to percolate for half a century and was supported by presidents from Madison to Polk. The Mexican-American War gave the proposal new life as the responsibilities of the federal government grew. Polk's Secretary of the Treasury, Robert J. Walker, became a vocal champion for creating the new department. In 1849, Walker stated in his annual report that several federal offices were placed in departments to which they had little to do with. He noted that the General Land Office, the Indian Affairs Office, and the Patent Offices had little to do with the Treasury. Walker argued that these and other bureaus should be brought together in a new Department of the Interior. The passage of the department was delayed by Democrats in Congress who were reluctant to create more patronage posts for the incoming Whig administration to fill, but the department was finally created on March 3, 1849. Many of the domestic concerns the department originally dealt with were gradually transferred to other departments. Other agencies became separate departments such as the Bureau of Agriculture. However, land and natural resource management, Native American affairs, wildlife conservation, and territorial affairs remain the responsibilities of the Department of the Interior. The Department of the Interior is divided into several agencies. At the top there is the Secretary, who is generally from a western state since the department has a substantial impact in the West. The Secretary is also eighth in line for presidential succession. Then there is the Deputy Secretary, who advises and assists the Secretary in the supervision and direction of the department and its activities and succeeds the Secretary in his or her absence, sickness, or unavailability. Under the Deputy Secretary, there is the Assistant Secretary for Policy, Management, and Budget, the National Business Center, the Chief Information Officer, the Solicitor, the Inspector General, and the Special Trustee for American Indians. The Assistant Secretary oversees programmatic, administrative, and financial policy for the department, including budget formulation and implementation. The National Business Center is a service provider for the department created by the consolidation of 3 existing service centers in the department. It also provides services to other departments supporting more than 150 governmental agencies, providing business management systems and services. It is designed as a center for excellence in the financial management and human resources services. The Chief Information Officer provides leadership to the department and its bureaus in all areas of information management and technology. The Solicitor performs the legal work for the department, manages the department's ethics officer, and resolves FOIA appeals. The Inspector General provides independent oversight and promotes excellence, integrity, and accountability within the programs, operation, and management of the department. The Special Trustee for American Indians seeks to improve accountability and management of Indian funds held in trust by the government. The trustee has the primary fiduciary responsibility to manage both tribal trust funds and individual Indian money accounts, as well as resources that generate income for those accounts. Next is the Assistant Secretary of Fish and Wildlife and Parks, who supervises the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the National Park Service, protects the nation's natural, cultural, and heritage resources, promotes conservation and balances recreation with the protection of the environment, coordinates marine environmental quality with other agencies, and serves on the Great Lakes Fishery Commission. The National Park Service manages all national parks, many national monuments, and other conservation and historical properties with various title designations. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is an agency that works with others to conserve, protect, and enhance fish, wildlife, plants, and their habitats for the continuing benefit of the American people. Next is the Assistant Secretary of Indian Affairs, who manages the Bureau of Indian Affairs that offers an extensive scope of programs to cover the entire range of federal, state, and local government services, providing an educational system, social services, natural resource management of trust land, economic development programs, law enforcement and detention services, administration of tribal courts, implementation of land and water claim settlements, housing improvement, disaster relief, replacement and repair of schools, repair and maintenance of roads and bridges, and the repair of structural deficiencies on high-hazard dams. Next is the Assistant Secretary of Land and Minerals Management, who oversees the bureaus responsible for regulating uses of public land, offshore energy resources, and surface coal mines. Next is the Assistant Secretary of Land and Minerals Management, who oversees the bureaus responsible for regulating uses of public land, offshore energy resources, and surface coal mines. Under the Assistant Secretary of Land and Minerals Management is the Bureau of Land Management that administers America's public lands and manages subsurface mineral estate underlying federal, state, and private lands. The Office of Surface Mining Reclamation and Enforcement is entrusted with the implementation and enforcement of the Surface Mining Control and Reclamation Act of 1977. The Act attached a per-ton fee to all extracted coal in order to fund an interest-accruing trust to be used for reclamation of abandoned mine lands, as well as establish a set of environmental standards that mines must follow while in operation and achieve when reclaiming mined land in order to minimize environmental impact. The Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, Regulation, and Enforcement, previously known as the Minerals Management Service, manages the energy and mineral resources on the outer continental shelf, as well as federal and American Indian mineral revenues to enhance public and trust benefits, promote responsible use, and realize fair value. Interestingly, this bureau is among the top 5 largest revenue sources to the federal government since it leases federal lands to water, oil, and natural gas companies with a profit margin of 98%. Finally is the Assistant Secretary for Water and Science, who oversees the U.S. Geological Survey and the Bureau of Reclamation. The U.S. Geological Survey studies the landscape of the U.S., its natural resources, and the natural hazards that threaten it. The organization has 4 major science disciplines including biology, geography, geology, and hydrology. This agency is purely a fact-finding agency with no regulatory responsibility. The Bureau of Reclamation oversees water resource management, specifically as it applies to the oversight and operation of numerous diversion, delivery, and storage projects built throughout the western United States. Some interesting facts about the department include that the department manages 507 million acres of land, about 1/5 of the total land area of the U.S., 476 dams, 348 reservoirs, 388 national parks, monuments, and seashore sites, and 544 wildlife refuges. The U.S. Department of the Interior is a very important cabinet agency that serves to manage and sustain America's lands, water, wildlife, and energy resources, honor our nation's responsibilities to tribal nations, and advocates for America's island communities.